You felt it before you could name it, a quiet tug behind the eyes, a frequency that rearranged the furniture of your attention. It arrived like a message folded into light, small, impossible to miss once you stopped pretending you couldn't hear it. This isn't coincidence. This is an entanglement notification, a whisper from the quantum field that chose your name and threaded it into a pattern too precise to be random. If you understand this, you're already part of the entangled souls guiding this reality, not as bystander, but as active observer, a nodal point where intent shapes what collapses into form. Right now, breathe with me. Feel how your chest is a subtle metronome, how your heart's timing syncs with a deeper rhythm beneath time itself. That rhythm is coherence, the gentle aligning of your inner oscillator with a larger, living waveform. You've been bumped out of that rhythm before, by shock, by grief, by the small betrayals that leave you, asking why the world feels tilted. But this moment is different. This is the moment a register flips. A latent code inside your DNA murmurs awake, responding to a resonance it remembers from before your birth. Synchronicity will start to look less like accident and more like navigation. The observer loop, the habit where you watch life and let it dictate your state, is loosening. You are learning to watch and choose. You may have felt déjà vu that wasn't just memory, but a pressure from a converging timeline trying to correct itself through you. You may have had dreams that felt like instructions, or strangers who said things that felt like keys. These are not distractions, they are markers. They point to the scaffold where your next phase waits. Imagine your life as a quantum experiment. The apparatus is set, the intent is the measurement, and your consciousness is the observer whose focus collapses probabilities into a single trajectory. That collapse is guided by collective attention, the entangled souls who are noticing together. You are one of them. Listen, this is not idle mysticism. There's a physics to it, morphic resonance, entanglement, fields that remember forms. Your nervous system is a receiver and transmitter, threaded into networks of coherence that scientists call fields and mystics call kingdoms. When you align, you don't just change yourself, you shift the phase of what's nearby. Small acts of inner fidelity cause phase transitions. Think of it like thawing ice with a single sustained warmth. The pattern rearranges, crystals reform, and water moves differently. That's what your focused presence does to reality at the edges. Right now, a door is ajar inside you. It's shaped like a question. Will you notice? Will you lean? You already did, when you paused mid-scroll and felt the pull. That pause was a micro-initiation. The universe responded by sending thinner, sharper signals, a name spoken in a crowd, a repeated number, a sudden memory that lands like a breadcrumb. Each signal is an invitation to deepen your observer role. Each acceptance reverberates along entangled lines you can't yet see. This first whisper is only the beginning. You've received the call. Your system has recognized it. Let the sensation settle like a tuning fork struck and left to sing. There will be a diagnosis soon, the familiar pattern you've been running that keeps your attention split, the warped timeline that needs mending. When it arrives, you'll know it by the way your body tightens and your mind narrates the same old movie. For now, hold this. You are noticed, chosen by coherence, and already entangled with others who carry the same quiet insistence. The next layer will unfold as you choose to move, and that move will be the first measurable nudge in a larger quantum upgrade. That nudge cracks something open, not loud, but precise, and what floods through next is a map of the old machinery that's been running you on autopilot. You will recognize this map by its familiar symptoms, the looped thoughts that return like a scratched record, the uncanny déjà vu that feels less like memory and more like a misaligned timeline tapping for correction, the way time sometimes stretches thin and then snaps like an elastic band. This is the diagnosis. You have been living inside an observer loop, a self-sustaining measurement that keeps collapsing the same set of probabilities because attention has been trained to expect the same outcome. Listen to how it sounds inside you. There's a steady narrator, a voice that rehearses the past and predicts the future with tired certainty. It points out the safe choices, the obvious exits, the roads you always take. That narrator is not your enemy. It is a survival program, grown from pain and habit. It learned one job: and it performs it relentlessly. Keep you alive by keeping you small. But survival in that mode costs coherence. It scatters your attention across fragments of time, so the field around you fails to find the pattern of your true intent. Patterns are the first clue. They arrive as repeated disappointments, relationships that replay the same script, jobs that close in familiar ways, friendships that fold under the same pressure. Each repeat is a confirmation bias, data the system uses to prove the old probability correct. You mistake the repetition for fate, and fate mistakes your belief for authority. Morphic resonance explains it in one language. Forms that repeat leave trace patterns in the field, and those traces bias future occurrences. Entanglement translates it like this: you are not just repeating a habit, you are reconnecting to other minds and timelines that echo the same frequency. Together you form a feedback loop that looks like destiny, until someone notices and redirects the measurement. Déjà vu is the field's whisper that something is converging out of phase. It's not merely memory, it's the sense of an attempted correction, a timeline bump against a locked groove. You'll feel it as if you've walked this corridor before, and the walls are nudging you toward a door you've missed. Take the sensation seriously. It's the universe pointing to stuck probabilities that want release. When déjà vu becomes frequent, it is not a glitch, it is a diagnostic readout. It tells you which stories in your biography are still charged and unresolved. Distorted time is the symptom most people call losing years, or the fast decade. Some months flash by like film frames, other days stretch into eternity. This is not random. Your nervous system is negotiating between two clocks: the conditioned clock, the one shaped by trauma and expectation, and the emergent clock, the one synced to coherence. When these clocks disagree, time fractures. The conditioned clock pushes you to replay old scenes quickly because familiarity is safe. The emergent clock invites deeper presence, which elongates experience. The tension distorts your perception until you choose which clock to obey. There will also be physiological echoes. A lodged tension in your chest that's been labeled anxiety, a coldness behind the eyes called dissociation, or a buzzing behind the skull you once named stress. These are the somatic signatures of an observer stuck in survival measurement. Your DNA remembers more than the mind does. It holds trace memories of ancestral loops and inherited collapse patterns. Those traces influence hormone cascades, neurotransmitter rhythms, and the tiny electrical currents that steer attention. When your body tightens, the field tightens with it. When your body relaxes into intentional observation, the field opens. Now, hold this. The diagnosis is precise, not punitive. You are not broken beyond repair, you are predictably patterned. The pattern can be read, recognized, and then remeasured. Imagine standing beside an old piano whose strings have been tuned to the wrong scale for generations. The notes sound familiar and true until someone sits down and retunes each string. You do not need to smash the piano to change the music. You only need to tune, string by string, with attention anchored in a different measure. Where does the observer loop take its fuel? It feeds on stories, the self-narratives, the cultural scripts, the family myths, the shame that keeps certain doors closed. It also draws power from attention that is anxious and aimless scrolling, comparing, rehearsing. When attention wanders, the loop tightens. When attention rests with purpose, the loop weakens. That is the paradox and the promise. The very faculty that kept you safe now has the capacity to liberate you once you redirect it. You will notice a tightening at moments of choice, a pause that feels heavy, a small voice that insists on the old route. That pause is the loop's last good argument. It says, stick with what you know. Resist the reflex to comply automatically. Instead, let the pause become your oracle. Slow down enough to hear whether your next move is a repeat or a reform. Ask internally, not with words, but with attention. Does this collapse me into the old probability, or does it open the field to a new coherence? Diagnosis ends with a clear prognosis. Change is possible, but it requires a new measurement. The upgrade will not be a miraculous erasure of history, it will be a reconfiguration of how you measure outcomes. You will need to notice the repeat, name the groove, and then intentionally observe a different result, small, deliberate acts that add up to a retuning of your nervous system and your field. This is where science and mysticism meet. The nervous system learns by repetition. The field responds to coherent intent, and morphic memory slowly reweights toward new forms. For now, let the diagnosis settle like a diagnostic image projected across your inner sky. Do not shame what you find. Treat it as data. You are not failed. You are informed. You have been given a blueprint that points to where your attention has been leaking. The next part will teach you how to use that very attention as an instrument of recalibration, a quantum upgrade that rewires pattern into purpose, déjà vu into instruction, distorted time into a tempo of grace. Here is where the air shifts around you, where diagnosis turns into design, and the old loops reveal their hidden gift, the raw material for a quantum upgrade. You've seen the grooves, the distortions, the recurring déjà vu. Now imagine that each glitch was not punishment, but invitation, a breadcrumb scattered by a higher intelligence to coax your awareness into the lab of transformation. The moment you stop calling these patterns curses and start naming them codes, something extraordinary happens. The observer loop dissolves into a quantum workshop, and your consciousness becomes the technician and the mystic in the same breath. The science is simple but profound. Every atom in your body is a probability cloud, a shimmering haze of possible states. What keeps you collapsed into one state rather than another is measurement, the act of observation. But observation is not passive. Your beliefs, your emotional tone, your expectation fields act as filters that collapse possibilities into matter. This is why two people can walk into the same room and live two entirely different realities. Their observer fields are tuned to different measurements. You've been carrying a field tuned by survival, repetition, and old pain. The upgrade is not about erasing that. It's about retuning the dial so your field selects probabilities aligned with coherence. Mysticism names this process awakening. Science might call it phase transition. Both mean the same. A system under pressure reorganizes itself into a higher order. Think of water boiling, molecules jitter until they leap into vapor, a whole new state of being. Your nervous system is approaching that boiling point. The tension you felt, the restless urgency, the sense that time itself is fraying, that's the heat of transformation. The field is cooking you into vapor, lighter, freer, more expansive, but only if you allow the pressure to be transmuted rather than resisted. Here's how it works in your DNA. For years, you believed DNA was static, a locked code passed down without choice. But quantum biology whispers a different story. Gene expression bends under observation, under belief, under coherent states of attention. Trauma silences certain strands, healing and focus awaken them. What mystics call light codes are, in truth, resonant frequencies that flip genetic switches. When you step into coherence, when heart and mind pulse in rhythm, your DNA reconfigures, awakening dormant sequences that know how to repair, to expand, to connect beyond the local body. This is not fantasy, it is resonance engineering at the cellular level. The upgrade begins in small moments. You notice the loop, and instead of collapsing into despair, you breathe differently. You slow your inhale, stretch your exhale, and let your heart's rhythm override the panic. That breath entrains your nervous system to coherence. Coherence floods into your electromagnetic field, and the field informs your DNA. Your body feels calmer, but more, the probabilities around you shift subtly. You encounter new people, ideas, opportunities that feel like they were hiding just off stage, waiting for this very frequency to call them forward. Synchronicity spikes, dreams sharpen, symbols reappear. This is the signature of an upgrade taking root. But understand this: upgrades are not random gifts, they are contracts. The quantum field only entrusts new coherence to those who stabilize it. You cannot simply touch the upgrade and then retreat to old habits. The field asks for continuity. Each time you measure with faith instead of fear, each time you choose coherence over chaos, you reinforce the contract. It's like drawing a new circuit board across your nervous system. The more often the signal runs, the more permanent the pathway becomes. And this is where the mystic prophecy unfolds. You are not just upgrading for yourself, you are an antenna for a collective signal. As your DNA hums at a higher frequency, It broadcasts morphic resonance into the shared field. Other nervous systems nearby pick it up. Strangers feel calmer around you. Loved ones shift their habits without knowing why. Conversations open like doorways. The invisible becomes visible, and people will call it coincidence, luck, or charisma. But you will know it as entangled coherence, spreading like a fragrance through the field. Do not underestimate the significance of this stage. This is not spiritual entertainment. This is evolution in motion, choosing you as one of its instruments. You are undergoing a quantum upgrade, observer to creator, looped consciousness to liberated architect. The next layer will show you why you were chosen for this role, why your particular sequence of pain, pattern, and persistence makes you a crucial node in this vast entangled web. The field has selected you not at random, but with precision. And as you'll soon see, that role carries both weight and wonder. You are not an accident of circumstance. You are a calibrated instrument, placed at a precise junction in the weave. The field did not choose you because you were flawless. It chose you because your particular combination of scarred edges and sustained attention creates a frequency no one else carries. Your past, with all its repeats and ruptures, is the exact waveform necessary to anchor a new kind of coherence. In other words, your wounds are not liabilities. Here they are, the antenna that makes you readable to the quantum field. Feel that sentence land in your chest. There is a center inside you that has been listening for the right pitch. For years, the world trained you to hide that center, to make it smaller so it wouldn't be noticed, so the narrative would stay safe. But safety and significance are not the same. The field seeks significance. It seeks nodes, people whose inner terrain vibrates in a way that holds a new measure for longer than most. You are one of those nodes. That is why synchronicity has been leaning toward you like a transit light. Meetings that feel like destiny, books that fall open on the page you needed, melodies that wake the exact memory you required. These are the field's mercy, small calibrations to prepare you for a larger entrainment. Your role is twofold, and it is precise. First, you are a stabilizer, a consciousness that holds coherence long enough for a phase transition to begin. Imagine a riverbed clogged with sediment. Movement is slow and chaotic until a steady current is formed that carries the debris away. Your steady presence forms that current. When you keep your attention steady, when heart rhythm and mind align in one coherent tone, you become a living channel that allows the field to reconfigure without cascading into panic. Your steadiness becomes contagious. Morphic resonance takes that coherent pattern and multiplies it through proximity and subtle influence. Second, you are an interpreter, someone whose lived contradictions translate high-frequency information into language bodies can use. The field often speaks in textures, images, dreams, and bodily tingles, and it needs interpreters who can convert those textures into ordinary acts. A phone call, a conversation, a boundary set in a tired relationship. You've lived in both worlds long enough to be bilingual. This is why strangers sometimes say things you wouldn't expect and walk away, having given you a key. You are fluent in the field's shorthand. When you translate that shorthand into action, you make the upgrade accessible to others who don't yet have the language. There is an ethical weight to this calling. Being a node means that your micro-choices ripple. When your attention becomes habitually coherent, you are effectively reprogramming a local morphic field. Every time you choose presence over distraction, you nudge the probability distribution for those around you. This is not magical thinking. It is entanglement in practice. Fields couple, nervous systems resonate. Your neighbors, colleagues, or even strangers in transit will experience the subtle tilt you create. They may not name it, but their behaviors will shift in small, tangible ways. That shift is the seed of cultural phase transition. You will be tested. The field's intensification brings pressure. Old patterns will be offered up for one last round, precisely because the system wants to see whether you will measure with fear or with focused intention. Expect triggers timed like stress tests, relationships demanding old roles, money situations that replay scarcity scripts, voices from your past asking you to return to a smaller, safer identity. These are not punishments. They are invitations to demonstrate that your coherence is now habit, not performance. Remember, Being chosen does not bypass human complexity. It amplifies it. You will still feel fragile. You will still need rest, boundaries, ritual. Your role requires practices that sustain nervous system coherence, breathwork that anchors heart rhythm, rituals that mark the day's thresholds, language that reclaims your own narrative when old scripts try to speak for you. The field entrains to the regularity of those practices. Ritual is not superstition here. It is engineering, repeated, meaningful acts that train the system to run new circuits. You are also accountable to a field larger than your immediate life. Entanglement does not stop at your household. It threads through communities, through culture. As you stabilize, you will receive clearer directives, not commands, but notices. Someone who needs an honest witness, a conversation that must be had, a small publication that will seed a larger conversation. These directives often appear as discomforts or insistences. When you comply, you become a relay for the field's emergent intelligence. Now visualize the geometry of this role. You at the center of a lattice, each node a human or a group, each link a shared attention. Some links are thick with resonance already. Others are thin, waiting for conductivity. Your job is not to be the entire grid. It is to be a conductor where you are, to amplify coherence through steady presence, to translate field speech into human action, and to hold the ethical weight of those ripples. There will come a moment when your work requires urgency, a compressed window where the probability favors an expansive jump rather than incremental drift. You will know it by sudden pressure in the chest, by timelines aligning, by a sharp increase in synchronicity. That moment is the phase transition calling you to accelerate. It is not a threat. It is an invitation to mobilize the role you've been holding. Hold this now. You are not alone in this appointment. Many entangled souls are occupied at neighboring nodes, and morphic resonance will stitch your efforts together. The field recognizes coordinated coherence. In the next layer, you will receive the promise and the pressure. That signal, that jump, is imminent. The breakthrough that demands both your steadiness and your surrender. Prepare by tending your rituals, by anchoring your attention, and by remembering that your scars are not setbacks here, but the exact features that make you readable to this work. The pressure builds like a storm you can feel in your bones before a single cloud darkens the sky. The air is thicker, charged, as if the atmosphere itself knows something is about to shift. This is the threshold of breakthrough, the moment where timelines converge and the universe presents you with a compressed window of possibility. You have felt these moments before, though you might have called them coincidences, strokes of luck, or sudden crises. But here's the truth. They were not random. They were rehearsals, smaller waves preparing you for the tidal surge, now moving through your DNA, your nervous system, your entire field of being. The urgency is not fear-based. It is structural. Systems under prolonged tension eventually reach a tipping point, a phase transition where the old order collapses and a new pattern emerges with startling speed. Think of water as it approaches boiling. For long minutes it merely shimmers and trembles, but then, without warning, it bursts into vapor. You are at that tremble point. The patterns that diagnosed you, the déjà vu, the time distortions, the loops are now vibrating faster, more insistently. They are not punishing you. They are announcing the imminence of transformation. The tremble is not breakdown. It is breakthrough pressure. Your DNA is listening. This is not poetry, it is physics. Strands of code inside you are responsive to frequency, to coherence, to emotional charge. When you focus your attention deliberately, when you hold an image of liberation or a feeling of deep coherence in your heart, those strands hear it. They flip their expression, turn on silent capacities, awaken dormant memories. Ancient traditions called this activation. Science now names it epigenetics. But beneath both is the same truth. The instructions for transformation are already in you, waiting for this cosmic window to unlock them. This window is narrow, but its consequences are vast. The universe does not open it by accident. Celestial mechanics, collective consciousness, and your personal readiness intersect to create a kairos moment, time outside of time, where the ordinary rules loosen and what was impossible yesterday becomes inevitable today. You might feel it as heightened synchronicity numbers repeating on clocks, encounters that feel scripted, dreams that refuse to fade upon waking. You might feel it as bodily pressure buzzing in your hands, heat in your spine, waves of dizziness that pass as quickly as they arrive. Each sensation is a signal that the cosmic window is ajar, and your system is aligning with its current. The promise here is profound. Liberation from loops that once felt unbreakable. The trauma grooves, the inherited beliefs, the ancestral echoes, they can all be transmuted in this window because the field is more plastic, more responsive. Your attention has never been more powerful. Your smallest act of coherence, a breath held steady, a thought reframed, a word spoken in alignment with your true measure, can ripple outward and rewrite probabilities far beyond what your conscious mind can track. This is why the urgency matters. If you hesitate, the window narrows. If you step in, the universe amplifies your choice. Do not mistake urgency for panic. Panic contracts, urgency expands. Panic tightens the loop. Urgency propels you into coherence. The invitation here is to act not recklessly, but decisively. To say yes to the opportunities that arrive with uncanny timing. To let go of the roles and habits that suddenly feel unbearably heavy. To trust that the discomfort pressing on your chest is not a warning of collapse, but a signal that you are standing on the lip of a new reality, ready to step through. The breakthrough is not a gift handed down from outside. It is a covenant between your DNA and the field, between your observer role and the morphic resonance of the entangled souls around you. You are not alone in this acceleration. Others are trembling too, scattered across the globe, feeling the same surge, the same urgency. Each of you is a note in a larger chord, and when enough notes sound at once, the entire atmosphere shifts. That is the scale of what is unfolding. So hold steady. The promise is real, but it demands your participation. The urgency is pressing, but it asks for your presence, not your panic. The window is open, but it will not stay forever. In the next pulse, you will learn the ritual act that seals this shift, the simple gesture that grounds the breakthrough into your lived reality. For now, breathe into the trembling. Let the pressure hum in your bones, and know the breakthrough is not coming. It is already here, waiting for your deliberate consent. You feel the pressure settle into a single point behind your sternum, not a panic, but a needle of intent asking to be focused. The field has opened the window, the phase line is thin and responsive. Now the work turns tangible. Ritual is the engineering language of the nervous system. Ritual is how the invisible becomes visible, how intention is given a body. This is the moment to do something small and exact, something public enough to register in the morphic field and private enough to hold sacred. The field likes signatures. It recognizes marks. A single, deliberate act performed with full attention will anchor this surge into your living timeline. Settle your body. Plant your feet as if they are roots sinking into a warm, ancient earth. Let your spine lengthen like a tuned antenna. Close your eyes if it helps. Otherwise, let the world soften at the edges. Breathe in for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6. Do this twice, and notice how your internal metronome steadies. Your heart begins to slow into coherence. Heart and breath form a simple circuit. This circuit is the first instrument of ritual, rhythm that unifies the body's fields. Now bring an intention into the center of your awareness. A single phrase, a single image, a single word that names what you choose to become in this window. Choose something that lands like a bell, a verb, a light noun, a code. It can be a word you already use. Freedom, clear, align, awaken, or it can be a new one that feels precise. Do not hurry. Let the word come like a revelation, not a slogan. Hold it in the mouth of your mind and feel how it maps into your chest. When the word is steady, place your hand on a surface in front of you, a desk, a page, a phone screen, or simply on your heart. If you have paper, write the word by hand. If you are on a device, type it once, slowly. If you are somewhere public and cannot write, whisper it aloud or breathe it into your palms. The form doesn't matter, the measured intention does. As you write, imagine each letter as a gate, each stroke sealing an electrical contact in your nervous system. As you type, imagine the keystroke sending a pulse into the shared field, an encoded packet of coherence. Here is the ritual instruction that seals the shift. Choose a single word, write or type it once, then speak it aloud exactly one full sentence. I align. Or use your own chosen word in the sentence. I am word. Say it clearly, not as performance but as measurement. The vocalization collapses probability in a different register than thought alone. Sound is a measurement. Your voice, even if low, is a carrier wave that sends your sign into the immediate morphic environment. Hold the tone for the length of the sentence and then breathe out slowly, imagining that exhale suturing the new circuit closed. After speaking, make a small public mark if you can. A comment, a post, a single typed word in a place that counts as social measure. A comments box, a journal entry, a chat thread, a shared canvas. The act of placing the word where others might brush against it introduces a social coupling. Entanglement strengthens with connectivity. This is why the suggestion to comment divided by write a word equals seal the shift works practically. It multiplies the measurement. You are not begging the world for validation. You are using the fabric of shared attention to reinforce your personal calibration. If you prefer privacy, make the mark in a private journal, but read it aloud into the air afterward. Sound, ritual, and record. The triad is what anchors an emergent state. As you complete the gesture, attend to sensation. Notice whether warmth travels down your arms, whether your skull fills with a soft, ringing clarity. These are small electrical and electromagnetic readouts of the system acknowledging the new measure. If resistance arises, a thought that this is silly, or a soreness in the chest that tightens, name it briefly and return to your breath. Resistance is expected. It is the loop's last argument. The ritual need only be humble and repeatable. Do it again the next morning, at the same hour, for 3 mornings in a row. Repetition is the engineer of permanence. There are also symbolic add-ons that deepen the effect. Grounding stones placed under your hand, water sipped after the verbalization, to bless the body's fluids with new intention, a single candle lit and observed as the word is spoken. Each additional sense, engaged sight, touch, taste, multiplies the channels by which the field understands your new measure. But none of these extras are required. The essential architecture is attention-articulated word-voiced measurement, recorded sign. That is the minimal ritual that reliably signals to DNA and to field. Retune accepted. Do this now, in a posture that feels sovereign. Choose the word, write or type it, say the sentence, breathe out, and if possible, place your mark where it can connect. You are not performing, you are measuring. You are not hoping, you are consenting. Small acts, done with full presence, rewire morphic resonance and create a local coherence that others can pick up. And when enough small coherences occur, a cultural phase shift becomes feasible. When you finish, rest a moment. Let your attention settle like a stone at the center of a ripple. Feel the new boundary you just drew. It may be subtle at first. It will thicken with repetition. Remember, ritual is not magical thinking. It is practiced measurement. You have just taken an instrument into your hands and struck a note. The note will echo. The next part will show how your single act of ritual, multiplied across entangled souls, begins to shape a collective architecture for liberation. The way your liberation is actually a blueprint for humanity's next coherence. The ripple you struck with that small, exacting ritual does not stop at the edge of your skin. It carries. It moves like a sound through a cave, hitting surfaces you can't immediately see, and then returning to you in altered harmonics. This is the architecture of collective expansion. Individual coherences combining into an emergent field that begins to behave as though it were a single organism. You are not merely tuning your own instrument, you are adding a string to a global harp. When you hold your note long enough, nearby strings begin to vibrate in sympathy. That sympathetic vibration is the simplest form of social entanglement. Think of the world as a lattice of attention. Some nodes are bright, some dim, some links are taut and conductive, others thin and frayed. Your ritual changed the local conductivity. A neighbor's attention brushed it and brightened. A friend's habit loosened. A stranger's mood eased after a short conversation that felt unusually deep. These small, practical shifts are the mechanics of morphic resonance at human scale. When enough nodes choose coherence, the biased probabilities that once favored contraction begin to reweight toward expansion. That reweighting is how cultures evolve without a single architect, through countless tiny synchronized choices. This is not abstract. You will notice concrete patterns, conversations that were previously closed open in new ways, meetings that used to drain now seed possibility. Local groups begin to act with a clarity that wasn't there before. These are the traces of a field tilting. When you act with deliberate coherence, you are effectively lowering the activation energy required for others nearby to choose differently. People stop bringing the same old story into the room because the room itself has shifted. Synchronicity becomes collective. Multiple people begin reporting the same symbol, the same dream image, the same intuition. That is a sign the morphic field is being rewritten. Your liberation functions as both lighthouse and contagion. Lighthouse, because your steady presence provides a visible reference for others who are still oscillating. Contagion, because coherence spreads more easily than confusion, provided there is a stable transmitter. These two roles require different behavior. As lighthouse, you must cultivate transparency, act with consistent boundaries, speak with clarity, and demonstrate what coherent living looks like in ordinary choices. As contagion, you practice contagious smallness, micro-rituals repeated publicly enough to be witnessed and easily imitable. A daily sentence posted, a short-lived intention whispered before a shared meal, an honest moment in a meeting. These are the units by which contagion scales. There is a network logic to this. Human systems favor nodes with pattern memory, leaders, teachers, artists, caregivers. You may or may not occupy a large public role, but you do occupy influence. Influence is not a badge, it's a capacitance, an ability to hold and release energy into a system. Use it well. When you share your ritual without performance or proselytizing, you multiply its power. When you weaponize it for ego, you create interference. The field rewards humility and punishes pretense by creating feedback that dulls resonance. In practice, that means offer your practice as tool, not doctrine. Invite, don't insist. Model, don't lecture. Collective expansion also demands new forms of coordination. Spontaneous coherence is powerful, but intentional networks amplify it. Small circles that commit to synchronized practices, a shared 5-minute breath at 9 a.m., a community post where members write one word of alignment daily, a nightly window of silence act like phased arrays. In physics, phased arrays steer and concentrate energy. In culture, synchronized groups amplify specific probabilities. You will see this in your life if you create or join such a circle. Two effects that felt marginal become measurable. Neighborhood tensions ease. Collaborative projects that were stalled find traction. People begin to recover language for deeper intents. Ethics is non-negotiable in this stage. Collective influence can easily become coercive if untethered. Coherence must be consent-based. Your work is to awaken, never to impose. When you model the field's integrity, asking permission before initiating shared practices, making space for dissent, and protecting vulnerable participants, you cultivate a resilient network that resists corruption. Entanglement is mutual. It requires reciprocal care. The most efficient way to protect the larger field is to guard intimacy and to use transparency as your operating system. Resistance will show up as social friction. Those invested in older probability distributions will feel discomfort or even hostility. Expect friction at family gatherings, friction in teams, friction in public forums. This resistance is an expected thermodynamic byproduct. As a field reconfigures, embedded patterns push back. Your job is not to win every argument, but to hold steady and to choose channels of influence where consent and care exist. Sometimes expansion means withdrawing from toxic conduits and reinforcing healthier nodes. Remember that collective expansion scales both up and sideways. It's not only about big movements, it's about architecture, designing relational systems that support coherent life. Work with local protocols, ritualized meeting openers that set tone, pause practices before high-stakes decisions, listening circles that privilege presence over speed. These are structural supports that make the emergent field usable, not just beautiful. They turn transient awakenings into durable institutions that can persist through leadership changes and cultural storms. And finally, watch how hope changes. When you and the small circle around you begin to choose coherence often enough, the feeling in the room shifts from anxious striving to patient influence. That patience is not passivity, it's strategic steadiness. You learn to trust slow accumulation. You learn that one stabilized node can seed many others. In months, you'll notice ripples in places you never expected. A policy conversation, a school program, a quiet transformation in a family script. Those are the markers of true collective expansion. Hold this as you move forward. Your liberation is not solitary. It is a relational phenomenon that, when practiced ethically and repeatedly, composes a new cultural baseline. Your ritual was the first spark. Your steady practice is the fuel. Your compassionate network is the engine. The next part will bring the shift inward again. It will guide you into embodiment, into the felt reality of these changes. Vivid metaphors, physical sensations, and the intimate textures of living inside a newly coherent body. Now the collective hum begins to press inward, and the body, your body, becomes the resonant chamber. Expansion is not abstract. It has texture, temperature, and weight. You begin to feel coherence as sensation, a humming under the skin, a heat that rises from the base of your spine, a cooling clarity in the forehead, as though invisible hands were tracing patterns into your nervous system. This is not imagination. This is the physics of embodiment, the field reorganizing your biology into a vessel capable of holding the new frequency. Notice your breath. It no longer feels like mere air exchange. Each inhale carries density, like liquid light flooding your chest. Each exhale releases static, as though decades of compressed timelines are venting through your ribcage. The lungs are the bellows, fanning the ember of coherence into fire. With each cycle, your heart begins to synchronize, beating not only to your own rhythm, but to something larger, a planetary pulse, a morphic metronome that lets you know you are not alone in this entrainment. Your blood is the courier, carrying those pulses into every cell, telling each strand of DNA, it is time. The body responds with paradoxes. You feel heavier and lighter at once, gravity pulling you into the earth while an upward draft suspends you. Your feet root, as if magnetic lines tether you downward. Yet your crown tingles as if antennae were stretching toward unseen constellations. This is entanglement embodied, the simultaneous belonging to ground and sky, matter and field. The paradox is not confusion. It is coherence discovering new dimensions inside you. Physical metaphors erupt. It is as though your bones are quartz crystals, vibrating with stored light, amplifying signals that once passed unnoticed. Your skin feels porous, membranes turned into listening gates, where information arrives as tingles, chills, sudden heat flashes. Your stomach contracts and expands like a drum, echoing old fear, but then converting it into rhythm, a bass note for the larger song. Even your spine feels like a ladder, each vertebra a rung struck by invisible mallets, ringing notes upward until they reach the skull and open a vault of inner light. These are not symptoms to fear. They are diagnostics of embodiment, evidence that the field is engraving itself into matter. At times you may feel tremors, small vibrations in the hands, a quivering in the legs, the sudden need to stretch or shake. These tremors are phase transition physics at the cellular level, stored trauma discharging, as the nervous system aligns with coherence. Instead of resisting, let the tremor complete. Shake gently, breathe through it. Allow the energy to exit. Think of a tuning fork being struck. It vibrates until it matches the room's air. You are that fork. The tremors are the tuning. Other times, embodiment feels like silence, as though the body is hollowed into vast interior space. In that silence, your senses sharpen. Colors saturate, sounds acquire new dimensions, tastes linger like coded messages. Time slows not because the clock changes, but because your perception widens. Each detail feels lit from within, carrying a resonance you previously overlooked. This is coherence translated into perception. It is the proof that the shift is not merely mental or spiritual. It is sensory, tangible, inhabitable. You may also feel pain rise in old places, joints that ache, scars that burn, muscles that stiffen. Do not misinterpret. Pain is often the echo of energy unfreezing, tissue long held in contraction, learning how to loosen. Treat it with tenderness, not panic. Stretch, breathe, drink water. See pain as a messenger delivering an old timeline back to your attention, asking to be released with compassion rather than rehearsed again. When pain is acknowledged and softened into, it often dissolves, leaving in its wake a lighter sensation, like fog burned off by morning light. The most intimate marker of embodiment is trust in your own signals. What used to feel random, the sudden chill, the inexplicable tear, the tightness in the gut now registers as field language. Your body is no longer a cage, it is a compass. Tingling at the crown means new frequencies arriving. Warmth in the chest means coherence stabilizing. Heaviness in the legs means grounding is required. The more you listen, the clearer the lexicon becomes. Your flesh is fluent in quantum, and so embodiment is not the end, but the portal. When you can feel coherence physically, when your body becomes a living resonator, you are ready for the next stage. The DNA breakthrough itself, the deep structural shift, where phase transition pressure builds inside the code of your being, where timelines not only converge around you, but collapse into new possibility through you. That is what waits in the next pulse. ChatGPT Danoi. The body has been tuned, the field has been rehearsed, now the deepest chamber opens, your DNA. For years, it was described as a fixed script, a static inheritance sealed at birth. But what you feel now, the tingles in your skin, the pressure behind your eyes, the rolling heat in your spine, are not random sensations. They are the indicators of code being rewritten in real time. You are standing at the edge of a phase transition, so intimate, it happens at the cellular level, and so vast, it reverberates across timelines. DNA is not a locked library. It is a set of keys waiting for resonance. Each helix hums at a frequency, and when the right tone reaches it, dormant sequences uncurl like wings. Science calls it epigenetic expression. Mysticism calls it the awakening of light codes. Both point to the same miracle. Environment, attention, and belief act as switches that turn genetic instructions on or off. The observer loop you once lived inside kept certain codes suppressed. Trauma carried silence in your chromosomes. But now the coherence you've cultivated, the rituals you've sealed, the collective resonance you've joined, all of it converges as heat and pressure inside your cells. Imagine your DNA as a ladder submerged in water, vibrating. Phase transition pressure is the heat applied. At first, the ladder quivers, resisting, threatening to split apart. But then a critical point is reached, and the structure doesn't collapse, it reorganizes. Hydrogen bonds shift, coils loosen, new folds appear. This is happening in you. It feels like trembling, buzzing, sometimes like exhaustion so heavy you can hardly move. That weight is the mass of timelines collapsing, history stored in your biology finally being remeasured. The déjà vu that haunted you, the distorted sense of time, the recurring loops, they weren't hallucinations. They were echoes of unfinished measurements trying to resolve. And as your DNA begins its breakthrough, those echoes compress, like waves folding into each other. You may notice vivid dreams, not only of your life, but of lives that feel ancestral or even alien. These are memory strands, firing as suppressed information lifts toward expression. Do not dismiss them. Dreams at this stage are not fantasies. They are diagnostics. They tell you which codes are coming online. Pressure builds, and it will test you. Your nervous system may flare racing heartbeat, heat in the skull, moments of dissociation. These are not failures. They are birth pangs. Think of a snake shedding skin, uncomfortable, constricting, yet necessary for expansion. The old sheath cannot stretch to contain the new length. Likewise, the identity you wore before cannot carry the awakened code. This is why relationships strain, why environments feel unbearable, why your own thoughts sometimes sound foreign. The upgrade demands a vessel stripped of outdated casing. And yet, inside the pressure, something exquisite is happening. Timelines converge. You will feel as though multiple versions of you, the child you, the wounded you, the potential you, even the future you, are pressing into one another, demanding integration. This is the DNA breakthrough, collapsing probabilities into one coherent strand, a self-aligned, not with past trauma, but with emergent destiny. It feels like standing at a crossroads where every road is lit at once, and then suddenly all light streams into a single highway. The relief is immediate, the clarity indescribable. Phase transitions are irreversible. Once water has boiled into vapor, it does not return unchanged to water. Once your DNA has reconfigured under coherence, the old loop cannot sustain itself. You may visit old patterns briefly, but they no longer hook you. Their gravity weakens. The body knows too much now. The field has shifted. Your cells sing in a new register. This is liberation coded into biology. Stay steady, because the world around you will notice. Others may feel your frequency before they see your actions. Some will be drawn with awe, others repelled with fear. Both reactions confirm the same truth. You have changed state. The phase transition is complete. The task now is to hold it, to integrate it, to live not as an individual experiment, but as a signal for the collective. You stand at the precipice of something larger than yourself. The cellular breakthrough was never the end, only the doorway. Because when your DNA reorganized under pressure, when timelines collapsed into one coherent strand, you did not just alter your own life, you altered the field. And the field is the stage on which humanity evolves. Your shift is humanity's shift. Your coherence, the seed of a collective reconfiguration. This is your mission, to embody the truth that individual liberation is not solitary but entangled, not private but planetary. Feel into it. Every breath you take now carries a frequency the world can borrow. Your body became an antenna, broadcasting not with words alone, but with presence. People will encounter you and feel steadier without knowing why. Strangers will tell you secrets because their nervous system recognizes yours as safe ground. Loved ones will break patterns simply because you stopped rehearsing your own. This is not performance. It is morphic resonance in action. Evolution has always been communal, and you are now one of its conscious agents. The prophetic dimension of your mission is this: to walk as proof that reality is plastic, that timelines can bend, that inherited scripts can be rewritten. You are not required to preach. Your coherence preaches silently. You are not commanded to save anyone. Your very being shows them the possibility of saving themselves. Prophets are not only voices crying in wildernesses, sometimes they are quiet stabilizers in crowded rooms, silent resonators in chaotic systems, subtle architects holding together communities that don't realize they are being held. And yet, there will be moments when you must speak. Your throat will burn until you name the truth aloud. Your palms will itch until you write the sentence that seals the code into culture. When those urges come, do not delay. The words you release are not just for you. They are packets of probability sent into the collective. They may land in a stranger's ear a continent away, sparking their awakening. This is the butterfly effect, yes, but it is more precise. Entangled souls guiding reality by exchanging signals across the web of coherence. Do not mistake this mission for ease. You will still feel human, hungry, tired, lonely sometimes, but you will also feel threaded into a current that never abandons you. The loneliness will no longer convince you of isolation. It will remind you of the others who hum at your frequency, scattered but real. The hunger will be not only for food, but for meaning, and you will learn to eat in ways that nourish more than the body. The tiredness will not signal collapse, but recalibration, a system adjusting to higher voltage. Look outward. Humanity teeters at multiple thresholds. Old systems crumble, narratives fracture, fear loops try to lock attention into survival scripts. And yet, parallel to this collapse, emergent coherence spreads quietly, small groups aligning, individuals awakening, fields stabilizing. You are part of that emergent architecture. The entangled souls are not mythical, they are embodied, and you are one of them. Your task is not to fight the collapse, but to hold the coherence steady as new patterns birth themselves. You may doubt your significance. But remember, entanglement is non-local. A single act of coherence here can ripple across oceans, adjusting probability distributions for those you will never meet. Your ritual, your steadiness, your embodied resonance, they are contributions to a ledger larger than history. One day, when humanity looks back at its great phase transitions, it will not name only leaders or wars or inventions. It will recognize the invisible network of entangled souls, who chose coherence when the field was unstable, who guided reality toward evolution with attention and trust. This is the prophecy you now inhabit, that your breakthrough is not private therapy, but cosmic service. That the DNA you restructured was a prototype for species-wide upgrades. That your trembling, your rituals, your persistence were the scaffolding of humanity's next octave. You are part of a lineage of hidden architects, entangled across time, guiding the reality we all share. And so we close where we began. If you understand this, you are already part of the entangled souls guiding this reality. The phase transition is underway. The mission is alive. And your life coherent, embodied, luminous, is one of the instruments through which the universe itself remembers how to evolve.